Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in. This podcast, we're looking at the top qualities that we think that you need as a chiropractor to be a good chiropractor. And I don't think these are necessarily qualities that, if you don't have right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can never have them. I think you always have the opportunity to get good at these areas, but certainly for some people, it's going to come a lot more naturally and maybe less naturally for others. But if you haven't started studying chiropractic, or maybe just beginning to study them, and you're not any, maybe there's one of these qualities that we go through that maybe you're not so good at, then well, you've got lots of time to get good at them. So, Endre, what would you say is the top quality you need to be a good chiropractor?
The top quality to be a good chiropractor, I think, yeah, like an attitude and mindset of wanting to be good.
Hmm.
If you're not trying to learn and improve, you're never gonna reach your maximum potential.
Hmm.
Either if that's chiropractic or sports or art or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, you've got to want it, don't you? You've got to want
Yeah.
to be a good chiropractor and continue to learn. Yeah, to continue to want to learn. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, okay, yeah. Um, and then what else would accompany that? Because I suppose that comes under like a growth mindset, doesn't it? Just having the mindset of always wanting to grow. And what would you say would be the most important aspect of growth that you need for chiropractic specifically?
The most specific,
Like, which area would you say you need to grow in specifically? Like, which quality would you say you need to concentrate on as a chiropractor to make a good chiropractor?
I guess that depends on what part of the profession you're good at and what part you are not that good at.
Hmm.
But I think you would need to, like, communication with patients is very, very important.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you've grown up and always said, oh yeah, I'm just mumbling when I'm speaking, it's hard to, I'm not that good of to communicate, I don't like to stand in front of people, then you need that growth mindset in that area.
Hmm. To get better at it, yeah, and that could also be an aspect that um, because like some things are hard to get better at. For example, if you don't like people, it may be a bit difficult to get better at liking people. Um, like if you're not like if you're very introverted, like very introverted. I mean, I'm fairly introverted, but in like dealing with people in the way I do is not a problem for me.
Mm.
Um, but if you're maybe very introverted and you just really don't like working with people, then maybe chiropractic isn't the best field, as you're going to be constantly one to one with patients. So and it's also not just being good with people, but it's also liking that one to one interaction. And then also being good at that, because patients are going to come back because they had a good experience, and part of that experience is the social experience as well.
Mm.
Yeah, be good at making conversation with your patient and making it feel quite a natural process as they come in, um, at the same time as having a kind of diagnostic and treatment hat on. Can be a hard one to juggle. I always find it a bit of a funny one, like particularly if they're a new patient, because like with some of them, if the problem maybe is a bit more difficult and you're struggling to work it out, you've got your kind of diagnostic hat running full speed, and at the same time you're trying to kind of make them feel comfortable by just making some light conversation, and running
Mm.
those two at the same time is very difficult, because you also don't necessarily want to be speaking out the diagnostic side of things, um, you want to make it flow and make it look like it's flowing, even if it's chaos inside of you. I always find it an interesting contrast.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge for sure. How to, and yeah, especially if you don't know what's going on, then you really need to focus.
Yeah, if you know what's going on, then you can just concentrate on the social aspect. But I find I know I definitely struggled on at the beginning was talking to patients, really, like particularly talking to patients when I'm trying to think about what tests should I do next, or what treatment should I do here, etc. So you need to be a people person, and if you're not, then you need to find a way to become one to start liking people. But I would think that if you're not a people's person, you don't like people, you naturally wouldn't work with people in the context of something like chiropractic. So
But yeah, as you said, there is degrees. It's not like you need to love big parties all the time. If you're happy with one-to-one patients during your workday, like you can sit at home and read books for the rest of the day. But you need to find a way to make work, I guess.
Yeah, and actually, when you do work with people all day long, I find quite often I just want to get home and just chill by myself almost. Like, at least when I first get home, I wouldn't want to work all day long and then get back home and then have to interact with like 30 people or something. It wouldn't be my ideal situation, let's just say. So,
yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we've got the communication side, wanting to grow in that. Then we've also got, of course, the theory side, the idea of, or the wanting to get better theoretically in our knowledge of clinical skills, and I suppose more theory based, don't we? And if you're not, there are some chiropractors out there that are not really into that, which I find interesting. I suppose they will just concentrate on the more, they might become very good adjusters and concentrate on that. But I feel like there's only a certain level you can really get to if you're, that's as far, if that's like the only area that you like, and you really don't like the kind of theory side and the theoretical knowledge or the clinical knowledge, really, to be able to help better diagnose patients is a really important skill. So if you really if you love the practical side, but you absolutely hate the theory side, you can still be a chiropractor, but I feel like you're going to probably be a basic chiropractor. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You're going to be a TikTok chiropractor.
Yeah.
Just crack everything from everywhere, aren't you?
Yeah, and you're going to help. You're going to help a lot of people doing that, but you would struggle to help others, I suppose. So
you limit the amount of patients you can help by not learning and improving your knowledge and your diagnostic skills and your clinical reasoning, I guess.
Yeah, but I think maybe above that, you need to have that practical side, because I've seen chiropractors like they will have one or the other, and so I think naturally you're going to maybe be more attracted towards the kind of clinical skills, kind of knowledge side of things, or maybe more attracted to the practical technique side of things, and both are really important. I mean, would you put one above the other?
I don't know. I think I've tried to do this before, like which one is the most important, the theoretical side or the practical side, and neither of them work if you don't have the other. So it's a very, very it's a fun exercise to try to find out. Oh yeah, I prefer or like them.
Yeah, for sure. They're both. I think naturally you're going to find one easier than the other, but I wouldn't have thought that you would hate both, and if you hate both, you're probably not going to be looking at chiropractic. But yeah, I mean, you do need both. You need to be able to be good at what you do. You need to have the practical side, and you need the knowledge to be able to apply that practical side. So you need to be.
And if you know what's going on, when you can't help it, then you're not helping the patients.
I suppose it's like having the knowledge of. I think we spoke about this before, didn't we? Having the knowledge of knowing where to push to fix a problem, but you don't know how to push, or knowing how to push, but you don't know where to push. They're both fairly useless, really. I think I said it last time, actually, just thinking out loud, that I think I would argue that the former would be the more beneficial. Knowing where to push would probably be more beneficial, because at least then you can, you've brought them one step closer. But if you know where to push, but you don't know where to push, that's completely useless. And then you get into just guess.
Yeah.
So I think you want to be there for kinesthetic. You want to be body aware. You want to, I think if you're body aware, then you're going to be generally good at the practical side of things. And obviously, you're not going to be a good adjuster before you start studying chiropractic. But if you are generally good at practical things, like, you're good at sports, or you're good at art, or something that requires some practical skills, then there's a good chance that you'll be a good person at adjusting. But even if you're not, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't be a good adjuster. You just need to have that, as we mentioned before, that growth mindset, that motivation to get better at that. And if you work hard at it, then you can get good at it. I mean, we worked very hard. I would say we're both fairly kinesthetic people, but we practice every morning, don't we? 4 or 5 days a week for quite a few years to get as good as we can. And we would both say now, I would think that we can still go so much further. So that's also the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's the fun part, isn't it? You never done learning or improving in this profession. You can always learn something new. There's some new research, or you can get a little bit faster and a little bit more finesse in your adjustments.
Yeah. Do you want to? What level of teamwork would you say is required? I mean, a lot of jobs, teamwork is very essential. Would you say teamwork is essential in chiropractic?
Like teamwork with patients, if you consider the two of you a team, and you're trying to together help this patient, 100%. Other than that, it depends on how you're working. Some chiropractors is just working on their own.
That's true.
Seeing patients, then you don't need, maybe you need to refer out every now and then to a GP or to a surgeon or something, but I don't know if that's but then you have people that's working in multidisciplinary. That's a hard word.
multidisciplinary. I can't say that.
They work in a clinic with chiros and physios and osteopaths and everything.
Yeah, variety of clinicians.
Yeah, and then there will be more teamwork.
Yeah,
and then also your receptionist or CA, how you're utilizing them. Could have and if you're working on a team, you need to be good at working on a team, or at least decent enough to not ruin the whole clinic.
Yeah, I would say it's a small aspect, but it's a very important aspect. So for me, it's working with the reception, because the receptionist is the face of your clinic. They're the first person that the patient sees, and they're the last person that the patient sees as their lead. Not all clinics. That's the thing. Every clinic is very different. I mean, there's some clinics that don't have any physical receptionists. They might have a virtual system where a patient can book in and etc. So I find I have to constantly communicate. For example, if I just finished with a new patient, I'll bring them out to the reception, and I'll tell them, what they need booked, and anything that I want the receptionist to explain to the patient in regards to pricings or anything like that. So you're kind of handing them over. There's a bit of communication there, and teamwork in respect of being on the same page as each other. You don't want to say one thing in the consult room, and then they go to reception and the reception says another thing. So you want to be in the same. But then also working when you go away and then you pass some of your patients temporarily to your other chiropractor, if you work with another chiropractor, then there can be a little bit of teamwork needed there, I suppose. But I think it is quite small. If you did no teamwork and you just worked on your own, it would still work, absolutely, but it wouldn't work maybe quite as well or smoothly as if you had a team around you. And as you said, of course, if you've got a variety of different clinicians, then that's probably that's a lot of teamwork, really, because you need to be able to collaborate with them and work out how you're going to achieve that task of fixing that patient with the two of you. So an important aspect.
Sure. What about you, Steven? What do you think is the most important that's not mentioned yet? Is there anything else?
I think we've mentioned all the important parts. If I was going to put it on, if I was going to make it, I think the only other one that is, it is important. Maybe a little bit lower on the list, but no, still fairly important. It's being able to deal with, let's say, difficult patients, or let's say difficult people, or being able to deal with people that come in maybe a little bit stressed, because people are going to often come in pain, and when you're in pain, you're not necessarily your best self, and so just being able to be, I think, firstly calm, peaceful in those situations, not get caught up with their emotions. If, say, they get frustrated with something, maybe they take it out on you because they're in pain, they're just more easily triggered, then you need to be able to stay calm in that situation and deal with that situation in a calmly manner to bring them down. If you very easily also get triggered and you get angry, then two angry people don't tend to calm the situation down.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how often would you say you have to deal with that kind of thing?
Very rarely.
Yeah, not that often, is it? I would say. Actually, I can't remember the last time, to be fair. I think you have. Funny enough, I think you have to deal with it more often when you're beginning, because you make more mistakes. Your communication is not as good. Whereas when you get more experience, you're much better at dealing with patients and making them, I suppose maybe not making them angry or whatever.
Yeah, and you've seen it before, so you, as the clinician, is not that afraid of a patient that's irritated because he's in pain.
Yeah,
I think you also give them more leeway, just like, he didn't mean that. It was his way of acting because he's in stress and he's in pain, and it'd be pretty scary.
Yeah, and there's a lot of common situations, like some people get frustrated because they're not making as much progress as they would like, despite maybe you trying to explain as much as you can at the beginning the general prognosis of this type of condition, that it does take a long time. Some people can still get a little bit frustrated, and if you're not very good at explaining or dealing with that, then that frustration in them will grow and won't go away. But because I definitely noticed that in myself, like when I first started, there were certainly some situations I didn't really know how to deal with, and they got more frustrated and then they left. Whereas now I can see many examples of where they started to get frustrated, I then explained and kind of dealt with the situation, and then they were okay. And that's quite important. Yeah, but most important there in that situation actually is managing people's expectations, so you don't actually get yourself in that situation as often. But some people, I feel like it doesn't matter how many times you explain to them certain things, it just goes over the head. Particularly if they're in a lot of pain when they first come in. You know, those types of patients every now and again that I remember actually when I first started, I would have this kind of set thing I'll say for people when I do a report of findings. It was a bit more structured at the beginning when I did it. And he stopped me like 30 seconds in and said, "Is there a short version of this?"
Really?
It was just like typical like CEO business guy, and just didn't have any time. Just wanted like it done quick. And so that kind of I don't know what to say there. Really, I just kind of had to like say it really quickly. But I knew that was problematic because it didn't really allow me to like give him the right. Like they need to know what you're going to do, and they need to have the right expectation. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good road for either one of you. So even if I sense that in some people, like now, if I sense that, oh, they, you know, I get some people sometimes like, right, let's just get on with it. Like, let's just go, let's just start treatment. I will still make sure that I tell them what I need to tell them, because they think, all right, we can just go straight into it. But I know if we do that, it's less likely that they're going to make it to the end of the course of treatment and get themselves better. And they might give up halfway because they didn't expect maybe the progress to be the way it went. Some people expect the progress to be really quick, and but actually this type of issue doesn't respond as quickly as you would like it to. So
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
mm.
But then again, it's dealing with people, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's dealing with people, knowing what to do and how to do it, and then trying to improve. I think that sums up the whole.
Yeah.
What to do to improve as a chiropractor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to sum it up there. I think number one, we've got growth mindset, and that kind of interlinks into pretty much everything that we said. You want to be able to grow and have the attitude of learning and growing. And then in that, we've got the kinesthetic aspect, the, generally being good at practicals, ideally. Generally being good at or having a motivation of learning the theoretical knowledge. Then we've got the communication side. They're probably the main three pillars, I think. Because in that, based on what we spoke about, we've got the stressful situations, that communication. Okay, you've got the teamwork, but again, that probably comes under the communication. And yeah, no, I would say that it basically comes down to four things: growth, kinesthetic, knowledge, and communication. Those are, I think, if you're someone that's about to start chiropractic or even just studying it, you want to concentrate on those four things, and I don't think you have a problem really.
No, for sure. Sounds good.
And what would you say the most important out of all those four are? Could you say there's an important? Could you put one at the top? Or would you say? What would you say?
I guess growth mindset, like, yeah, that you could put everything in there. Yeah, or all the others, if I had to choose.
Yeah, and that's a hard one. That can be a hard one to gain. Like if you don't have the motivation, sometimes motivation can be the hardest thing to learn almost. But if you have that one, then the others I won't worry about, because I generally think you can always get better at anything if you've got the motivation to get better at it. Certainly, some people it's going to come more naturally, and some people it's going to come less naturally. So it's just the way it is. But so you might have to work a bit harder at certain areas and maybe a little bit less hard at other areas. But that's the way it goes. So good. Any last things to add, or I think we've covered it, haven't we?
I think we've covered it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, there we go.